It is time for our final Broncos 7-round mock draft. I am sure everyone is getting a little tired of seeing mock drafts all over the place. Unfortunately, for a team that does not pick until round 3 of the draft, the NFL draft may not be as exciting as previous drafts, but this is a very important draft for Denver because with only 5 picks in it, they really have to make every single pick count. So before we look at my brand new final 7-round mock draft for Denver, make sure to hang out with us here at Chat Sports for all 3 days of the NFL Draft. We will be live for it with pick-by-pick analysis, so join yours truly over at youtube.com/chatsportstv for wall-to-wall coverage of the 2023 NFL Draft. Now, to remind everyone of what George and Sean Payton are working with in this draft, they have 5 picks, 2 in round 3, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th. So, no 7th round picks, but they do have some nice picks late day 2, early day 3 to work with. Unfortunately, I'm a bit of a coward. In my last mock draft, I actually did have Denver trading back. So here's a mock trade that I came up with. Denver bounces back from 67 to 83 in exchange for a future 3rd, and they also send a 5th over to Seattle to get the trade to go through. Why does Denver want to move back? Well, I think 2024's draft will be a lot more important for them if Russell Wilson shows he is not the long-term guy for Sean Payton, and without a 2nd-round pick that year, they're going to want to add some more day 2 picks. Why does Seattle want to move up and give up a future 3rd? Have you seen the NFC? It's an absolute wasteland. If the Seahawks see someone slipping, they might jump up and feel like we have completed our roster and we are now the team to beat in the NFC West, with San Francisco's quarterback status looking like Sam Darnold starting week 1? I don't know. Now, with that being said, Denver still at pick 68, and I went Darius Rush, cornerback out of South Carolina, 6'1", 198 pounds. He was a 2-year starter for the Gamecocks. Now, I am sure that Sean Payton is going to love the fact that he switched from wide receiver to cornerback during his time in Columbia. He has great acceleration for 6'1", 21.65 miles per hour. That is what he clocked in at the Senior Bowl. So that's the type of combination of size and acceleration that GMs love to look for in DBs. Why is he here at pick 68? He's not a heavy penalized player. He just doesn't have maybe the best ball skills. 7 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. Those aren't bad by any means. You've seen guys like Clark Phillips from Utah post 6 interceptions last season. So that is a place where he stands to improve at. He definitely needs some coaching to be done on his tackling, but I think that type of size and speed is well worth pick 68 in the draft. Now I look to Denver's cornerback room, and maybe they're very content with Damari Mathis. And if they are, then they probably don't go corner at 67 or 68 unless some ridiculous player has fallen to them. But if they're not sold on Damari Mathis, maybe adding some competition to the CB2 job is a good use of their first pick in this upcoming draft. He's an all-time team player. Coaches rave about him. Shane Beamer loved him. Stayed there during a coaching change and whatnot. He just screams like a Sean Payton defensive back, in my opinion. I think Darius Rush very well could be the pick for Denver early in round 3. Now, before we get to the rest of our mock draft, I want to know a quick question from everyone watching right now. Who is your top draft target? Who is the player you want to see red when Denver is on the clock for the first time? Give me that name down in the comment section below. Now, after making that trade with Seattle, here's who I went with at pick 83. Edge rusher from Ohio State, Zach Harrison. Somewhat of a replacement of a different Ohio State Buckeye, Draymond Jones. Now, he's 6'5", 274 pounds. So he's got the size to be a 5 technique right down lineman on a 3-4 or 3-4 defense. Now, he did not test all that well at the 3-cone drill. The 3-cone drill is what GMs look for in replacement of the 40-yard dash for defensive linemen. They want to see your bendiness and your burst. Usually you shoot for 7-ish seconds. He's pretty far off the mark at 7.33. That's probably why he's not going to be a lock-in for a round 2 pick. Now, he could play defensive end. He also could play outside linebacker. Now, he was not uberly productive for Ohio State last season, just 8 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks, but he had a ton of QB pressures. And that's sort of like the OPS of football, right? Everyone looks at batting average, aka sacks. GMs love to look at pressures. They want to know how often an edge rusher is disrupting an offensive play. When I look at Denver's front 5, right now, that's a pretty good front 5, actually, as long as everyone's healthy. That's a big if, though. Now, Jonathan Harris, I'm not quite sold on as being a starting player in the NFL. Sorry, Jonathan. So Zach Harrison could step in and maybe start opposite of Zach Allen as a 3 on that 3-4 front. The production for Harrison was not there in college, but the tape says he's going to be a great player in the NFL. The tape says he is a good football player. The numbers and the stats will follow. He's not maybe the bendiest edge rusher, and he's sort of got 1 or 2 moves, and if he doesn't win on those moves, well, because he lacks that bend, he might not win that snap. But I think Denver in round 3 will take a chance on a guy like Zach Harrison. Plus, they just love Ohio State edge rushers. Now, make sure to subscribe and not miss a single pick Denver makes in this upcoming draft. We will have pick-by-pick analysis for you guys here, so get to know future Broncos players by subscribing today. In round 4 to start day 3, now I go running back, Tank Bigsby. He met with the Broncos in a pre-draft visit. There's a decent amount of smoke around him to Denver, and when there's smoke, there's fire. 5'11", 210 pounds. He was a 3-year starter for the Tigers. He only missed 1 game in those 3 years. So as Denver looks to find reliable running backs who won't fumble the football, Tank Bigsby, he's your guy. He led Auburn in rushing all 3 seasons. Last year for the Tigers, these are his stats when he was the leading rusher the last 2 seasons. 970 rushing yards, 5.4 yards a pop, a nice jump up from 4.9 the season before. He also can help in the receiving department. He never got all that many looks in that area, but when he did, he definitely capitalized on them. He is great down the field. He may not have elusive burst or speed behind the line of scrimmage, but once he breaks free, he is hard to catch up with. Now, where a running back is picked is going to be a big indicating factor on where Denver views Javonte Williams' recovery status. If they go running back in round 3 with one of their first 2 picks, to me that signals Sean Payton just isn't sold on Javonte Williams all that much long term, and they also don't see Williams, unfortunately, playing a lot in 2022. If they pick a running back later on, well, that means maybe they're expecting Williams to come back midway through the season, and they just need Samaje Perine to hold down the fort until week 7, 8, or 9 or something like that. Now, to round out Tank Bigsby, though, he's a very well-rounded, complete player. He can play all 3 downs. He's not a change-of-pace running back. He can do everything you need from him. He can rush the football well, of course. He can pass block. He can help in the receiving department. He's a very good, well-rounded back who's going to have a nice career in the NFL. So those are the picks we made so far. We got 2 left in this draft. And in round 5 at 139, let's go offensive tackle. Carter Warren from Pitt. So here's some background information on the Pitt Panther. 6'5", 311 pounds. He was a 4-year starter for them, primarily at left tackle, 39 career starts over there. Now his 2022 season was cut short due to a knee injury, so that's why he's probably slipping a little bit in this draft. If he played all of last season, this very well could be a 3rd-round player. Instead, Denver finds him a little later on. Now, here are his PFF overall grades from the last 3 seasons. 66.4, 70.7, and 64.4. He's going to be, hopefully, a swing tackle for this team. And who knows, there might be a vacancy at the left tackle position. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, let's look at the offensive line for Denver. A lot of work has been done here. And they still need a swing tackle because I don't think Garrett Bowles is going to be ready to go week 1. And they need to have a 6-man on the offensive line. And right now, they flat out do not have one. Now, to get back to Garrett Bowles, 2024 is the last year of his contract. And I talked about this in yesterday's video. So to rehash it one more time, He's got a $20 million cap hit in 2024 and just a $4 million dead cap. If Garrett Bowles has a bit of a regression this season or doesn't bounce back, unfortunately, all that well from a broken leg, and no harm, I'm not going to blame him for that. Don't be shocked if Denver pounces on the savings and drafts his replacement this year so they can step in and hopefully be a starting left tackle next year. That's a lot to ask for from a round 5 pick, but maybe Denver takes a swing at it. Let's get to our final pick in this mock draft here in round 6. I'm going to go wide receiver, Bryce Ford-Wheaton. I just think he's too good of a player to pass on in round 6. Even if that's not what Denver needs, I'm going best player available at this point in the draft. And Bryce Ford-Wheaton is that guy. He is 6'3", 221 pounds. He was a 3-year starter for the Mountaineers. He has the rare combination of great size, 6'3", so a jump ball receiver, and speed to go along with it. Now, he never had the production level match the size and speed. He never went over 675 yards in a season. So he definitely needs to see the tools he has materialize to great production. But Bryce Ford-Wheaton last season, 675 yards, a career high, 7 touchdowns, 62 grabs. He was not working with elite quarterbacks, and that's probably why he's taking a bit of a hit in his draft status, or his draft stock rather. But when we look at Denver's wide receiver room, a lot has to be said for sure in terms of the future of Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton on this team. But Tim Patrick works himself back from an injury. Don't be shocked if Denver just goes, this is just too good of a receiver. And with question marks regarding Jeudy and Sutton's long-term status on this team, maybe the Broncos take a flyer on a day 3 wide receiver. The reason why I like him a lot, though, is he's 6'3", and he ran a 4.38 40. Those types of combinations do not roll around in day 3 of the draft every single year. Now, he might not have ever gone over 1,000 yards, and he's got some route running issues, and he's got a case of the dropsies from here and there, but 6'3", 4.38 40, I'm in the business of drafting football players. Don't get me wrong. I don't like guys that just look at track models and think those are going to materialize to NFL players. But we're talking round 6 here. Why not throw a dart at the board? So with that being said, this is my final mock draft. I went Darius Rush, Zach Harrison, Tank Bigsby, Carter Warren, and Bryce Ford-Wheaton. I know that I missed a center, and I also missed another key position we'll look at a little later on. But I did like picking up a future 3rd-round pick. I'm going to give myself, if I had to grade it, a C+. Between Darius Rush and Zach Harrison, I think one of them has a good shot of starting. So to find a potential starter in the 3rd round, that feels like a bit of a win. The rest of the guys, they're development picks or they have high ceiling type of picks. But no, I definitely did not kill this draft. And honestly, how can Denver kill this draft? They don't pick until 67. They got to find some singles and maybe mix in a double here and there. Now, the pick that's not in my mock draft that I wish that was, but honestly, it just didn't happen, right? The simulator did not have this quarterback on the board when it made sense. Aiden O'Connell. There's a bit of smoke out there right now about Denver doing their homework on the Purdue quarterback. Sean Payton, Drew Brees, Purdue QB. I think he's just trying to make time a flat circle and find his next Purdue quarterback at his new team. So if Denver picks a quarterback, my personal favorite guy is Dorian Thompson-Robinson for where it makes sense for Denver in day 3. But Aiden O'Connell is definitely a name to keep an eye on as well. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in for our final complete 7-round mock draft. Make sure you tune back in tomorrow as we get more Broncos draft content headed your way.